This is an instructional series brought to you by the People Embracing Change Tribe. Welcome to our site.
Hi, I'm Bill Hegeman. Everybody finds me on the internet as Arkenstone, but no one ever calls me that. They call me Bill. This is just for show. That's all it is. One thing that I find, if you are ever dealing with people who need to have stuff done, and you're the type of people who go do it, sometimes you need stuff for show. Our tradition is basically do it all by energy and make it work that way, because you never know what you're not going to have. And the only thing you're going to have is yourself. Let me introduce my fellow co-panelists. They're here to jack me up or remind me of things if I forget. Lady Ursa and Bear, we're all elders in the People Embracing Change Tribe. We try to teach some core shamanic, psychic developments type stuff. And between the three of us, we have well over 150 years experiences at least. I think the two of them have had more formal training than I have. I've done most of my stuff on my own. What I want you to be able to get out of this is, first of all, an attitude that you can manage most situations. Because it's like a fight or flight type of. Sometimes you don't get a chance to flee, and sometimes fleeing is part of the fight. It's having the right attitude, being able to use your imagination, being able to think out of the box, and also have a sense of that you are absolutely capable of managing most situations. 9/10 of the time, most of your problems are going to be from people, not from ghosts, spirits, or demons, or what have you. And I have more than my fair share of experiences with each of those things. I'll get to that. I would like to get an idea of who here is in a position of like a guardian for a place, a tradition, for a deity. Nothing that serious? Good, okay. Anybody who experiences anything particularly negative that's weird? Okay, well, hopefully we'll touch on that. Okay, so we'll try to get to some open for questions and other scenarios. I'll start off with the basics, and I break magic down into 4 categories. And I know there's some people that are adamant it's all natural. I'll put it this way. Eskimos have 18 words for snow. The Sami have 22 just for reindeer. We can at least break magic down to 4 major categories. The first is natural. And it really requires 0 effort, 0 skill whatsoever. You don't have to be magically inclined to be able to do natural magic. Then there's preternatural, which comes from your own physical body, and it's mostly developing shields, energy management practices. I will teach that at the next class on Sunday. Then there's paranormal, and that is pretty much 90% of what people experience. All near Earth, natural essence energy, spirits, ghosts, people, and even extraplanar beings, because we end up bringing those planes into our environment and for our experiences. We don't realize that we're doing it. So hopefully I'll give you an idea of how you might be doing that and how you might be experiencing weird things with that. In supernatural, we're talking about gods, their whole environment, and their infernal counterparts. Now, these are underworlds and overworlds, but the nature has underworlds and overworlds in them as well. If any of you do plane walking or have really weird dreams where you're seeing really strange stuff, you will find that that's probably where you're best apt to deal with overworld and underworld stuff, unless you bring it in contact here. So, let me start off. Who experiences, almost yearly, And you have friends and people who exclaim, oh my gosh, there's so much weird energy going on, the world's changing, it's evolving, there's an ascension, there's coming to the fifth dimension, there's an apocalypse. Anybody experience that? Okay, any of you experience really wild dreams in the springtime, and the more sensitive you are, the more likely you to have it. The dreams, it's like you go over here, you look at this object, the shifts change, the next thing you know, your whole environment's changing in your dream. Well, it's an underworld dream. But how's it, and then next thing it's completely shifted. Okay? Now who gets that in the fall? Okay? What's common in spring and fall?
Seasonal changes.
Hmm?
Seasonal changes.
Seasonal changes. What specifically? You're getting closer, warmer.
Temperature,
Almost.
burning up pressure.
Something living.
Bloom or not. The
Trees.
trees, oh. Yeah.
Trees.
Growth and.
Trees they are part of the spirit of place and things, and they have a beautiful purpose. Do you know, just like shedding skin, you know, there's critters that eat up dead skin and whatnot, and we won't get into that yucky business, but I'll go into the other yucky business. Astral fluff, trash, detritus. As soon as you connect to something, and this is a magical tradition about attaching to things or detaching to things, once you attach to something, your flavor, your essence, your thought about it, you involve it, you crystallize it, and it becomes more tighter. And it doesn't fit with it. Because once you take it from something, it's not going to be it. Because it constantly shifts and molds. We let go of astral junk all the time. Now, if you're experienced magically, you work to own your own energy, and black out energy that's not yours, and shield, you don't get much of that, okay? You're not feeding the environment. And this is one rule I try to teach about dealing with things that want to feed off of you and your environment. Don't feed them. Okay? It's just that simple. You'd be surprised how simple that is. And some things just take away their food source. And we'll get to that. So the tree, during the winter, the trees are dormant, they're sleeping, we're shedding stuff, and if you're up north, you got snow. It bounces across the ice and whatever, when the sun comes down, and light and ultraviolet will get rid of most astral junk. Unless it finds shadows. And there's interesting places where these things do collect and do become creepy. Down here you don't get the snow, so it'll kind of ground out. And in the spring, as the trees come alive, they're churning it up non-stop until the last leaf is unfurled, and then next thing you know, the dreams go away. The craziness slows down, and the drama gets down to normal people drama. Okay? So what's happening is the leaves are taking that astral, getting put up in an organic material, just like wood, paper, or anything else you use magic to fix energy on it. Leaves do it. And they expose it to the sun, and they let it evaporate. Come fall, leaves start not doing their job, but the trees are still churning it up. So now you get your fall traditional stories of the Great Hunt. You get Odin chasing creatures, whatnot, Anun in a Gaelic, Celtic tradition, and elsewhere. And so what's happening is that these storms, and oddly enough, big storm fronts kind of have its own charge and starts moving the stuff in mass and funneling it down valleys, down river areas, down roads, and if you live downstream, mostly south of, malls, hospitals, prisons, seedy neighborhoods, whatnot, you'll get flows of that all year round, but especially during southwester nor'easters. Some traditions have the devil comes from the southwest doors and stuff like that. So it's unlucky to have a southwest door. Native Americans have their circles, their powwows, and their openings to the southwest, and they guard it. Because they don't, you want to make sure that anything that's coming into your sacred circle is okay. So there is a tradition for that. So now we're looking at how do we deal with that? And this is kind of leading into natural things that we can do to make the stuff go away. Now, if you have a house and you got doors and windows facing open areas, and where wind comes and beats on a house and stuff like that, the stuff will come right in. There's Appalachian traditions, you know, even keeping tornadoes away, taking knives or iron and sticking them right in front of your doors. So, you know, little shepherd hooks where you can put hummingbird feeders or bird feeders or gladiolas, no, not gardenias, those type of things. They'll all work. So iron works good. And what makes iron so special? The earth. It's 90% iron and nickel. It'll ground stuff out. So you find people wearing hematite because they're trying to keep all the craziness off of them. They're wearing iron to ground stuff out. Do I suggest people do that all the time? No, it's not particularly healthy for you. Well, I have one other thing that I want to show because it's kind of important while I'm on the subject. So what else can you do to prevent things coming into your house? You can put iron in the windows. You can do, that's just to deal with the main stuff, okay? So now you're in your house, and what does everybody think of to get rid of that negative stuff? Sage. People think, first off, sage. What is sage? It has resins in it, okay? What are other incenses that have resin? Dragon's blood, frankincense, myrrh, palo de santo, cedar. Be careful of cedar, because too much of it will ruin your lungs. So it's good for a little bit, and cleans your lungs out too. So all that stuff's good. But what should you do after you use it? Open the doors. Open the windows. Use another thing. Who has cinnamon brooms? They got resins on them. You kind of help it. Get it out the door. You don't belong here, get it out. Regular brooms, if you really work it, you get a static charge on the end of your broom. Same thing. Get it out of here. Very simple. So, a lot of people don't think about opening doors and windows because this stuff is, it's semi-physical. The astral actually has form and shape and will attach to things. And when you have the resinous stuff to kind of like encourage it to be loose, get it out of the house. Same thing when you have southwester storms. You open the windows, you open the doors, and you don't want those things staying in the house. Occasionally, they'll congeal into something else. And occasionally you have people's spirit fragments. Some things, soul splinters for soul retrievals. These spirit fragments get caught up in this whole wave of stuff. That's usually what these underworld beings are trying to get. Sometimes it's whole people's shells. They haven't quite made it into an underworld. They weren't escorted properly. And it may not house their soul. It may be just a shell that has an affinity that hasn't gone anywhere. And the more intelligent it is, the more paranormal, and we'll get to that. So, other residence things that are useful for around your home: landscaping, boxwoods, hollies, magnolias, red oaks, azaleas. I have a tea olive, smells beautiful twice a year. Beautiful, does the job, same thing. You plant them, and each resin has its own affinity for kind of discouraging stuff.
Rosemary?
Huh?
Rosemary also?
Rosemary, maybe, I don't know. And this goes to the other thing. It's like you start asking questions like that, ask questions to yourself and your subconscious. Next thing you know, you're using your intuition to figure out what works. Okay? So other things that are resinous that you can put in windows. Objects of art made from fruit, nuts, olives. I've seen beautiful work from olive wood. Just put them in the windows. Who here uses salt? Okay? And you know what salt is? It's a cubic crystal. Energy hits just about any way you get, and it fragments, and it just disperses all within the cube, radiates within the cube until it just resonates. I'm done. I love these. These are made out of quartz. I don't have to throw them out because they just do the job. The thing about salt, they get exposed to moisture, it kind of loses its crystalline shape. So it's like you're throwing salt out not because it's not working, because it's not working anymore, because it's changed its shape. So that's another thing. Who here uses black salt? You know, West African, Caribbean black salt. What are the two major ingredients? Salt. When you think about salt, it takes care of the yang energy, the energy aspect of it. But also, it uses long carbon chains. Some people use petrochemicals. I've seen a recipe that uses pan scrapings. Pan scrapings not only have oil and carbon that's built so that astral will hook to it. There's nice astral, organic chemicals love to have astral connect to it. So you lose the energy, the astral gets connected to it, you throw it out. You put it in the sunshine or wherever else you want to get rid of your astral debris. So these are all common sense, rule of thumb things that can actually be used. Used to be old glass-blown windows would be kind of helpful because they had imperfections in them. Okay? When they're blown, they're spun, they have these kind of imperfections. Nowadays, they're all done in sheet laminar, done perfect. Stuff comes right through them. So you get pieces of glass. People use witches' bottles and other type of things for all sorts of things. But you can actually use that to kind of catch astral stuff. Things like volcanic glass, St. Helens tears, Pele's tears, Apache's tears. They're all volcanic glass. And why is it bad luck? Because people try to wear them. Well, don't. All right? The thing is, you can put them in the windows. You can put them somewhere elsewhere. What does it do? The glass has these little fractured domains in it, and the astral comes through it, and it nabs a piece of it. And the rest of it goes away. And it basically, spirit comes through it, it loses a piece of itself, loses a piece of itself, loses, and next thing it's like, ooh, it's nothing, and it's kind of like, sweep it out. So, but don't wear it, and that's why it's bad luck, because it eats at you. It's like wearing iron, it's like wearing hematite, it will eat at you. Other things that you can use. So you use that resonant stuff, it gets rid of loose stuff. What do you do about stuff that's really hard to get out? And you don't have a shaman that has that knows enough, and I'll show you how to do it in a minute. What can you use? Who knows about selenite? Okay? Do you know that it's an astral leaf blower? It really is. It is the Mr. Clean magic eraser. Don't wear it. It will get rid of loose stuff real quick, and you wear it, and it starts eating at your core, yin energy. Don't do it. It's not good. When you're not using it, wrap it in plastic. This is one of the crystals you do not want to bathe in. You do not want to soak in water. It's water soluble. Selenium chloride is toxic. Just so that you know. I mean, it's a great tool, but I don't want to get this in me, and I don't want to hold this forever. Okay? And I'm holding it gently. Why? Because when you use it, all you have to do is just the electromagnetic activity in your hand and your muscular activity, and you generally get a stalk about yay big. And you just hold it, just like this. And I forgot my piece, so I bought this piece in small. You can just squeeze it and rub it against the wall. If you get a good stalk of it, it may work within 4 to 5 inches of organic material. You know, you get a haunted house, you get stuff with it. You usually get stuck in paper, and gypsum, and wood. And in older houses, those glass-blown windows. So we'll get to paranormal here in a minute. So you can put these in the windows, just as long as people don't sit next to them. You know, don't put them at your headboard. There's a store in Nashville that has giant sheets of selenite stalks, and I'm walking in, I'm like, shit. I'm serious, because you develop your core energy. You feel it when it touches you, and you say, I'm not losing one bit of it. Okay? And that's an attitude if you're going to deal with negative entities. You have to learn how to hold and own your energy. So I'll touch on these brief things because we're going to go right into the preternatural part. It's developing your core energy. Meditation, energy accumulation, learning how to map your energy, understanding it, scanning your body, learning how to do it with just one singular breath so that you are ready, willing, and armed at any given moment to do any type of magic you choose. And it's too big to do here. But two things that really work. Who here trusts somebody that can actually give a good, honest, hearty, vulgar laugh? Okay, it's like, no. Boom, you just charge the whole body because you're taking joy in who you are. You know, why do pirates seem so dangerous? It's like they just own themselves and they own the moment. I kid you not. The other thing is just a tight little, just squeezing everything. What that does is a little yang exercise that charges your skin, and it's called Wu Qi. Wu meaning a shaman, magician. Magician's protection energy. And it's also, if you twist and do it right, you can get it right into your bones. So I'll cover more about that. So you're dealing with nasty stuff, okay? You're going to start dealing with ghosts and other critters, okay? Before I get into that, I want you all to remember that 90% of this comes from humans. You may find weirder stuff, and we'll get to that, but people cause most of it, and not necessarily intentionally. For example, 90% of any given haunting is not a spirit itself. It's a recording. And you deep clean it. You do it by doing that, or get a shaman that does, has developed this energy, and you don't need to develop core yin energy. All you need to do is use your muscles and know how to point. See if you feel it. Okay? I'm just using muscles. The only thing you need is calories, water, and rest. You're done. You're good. And you go into something that's nasty and you feel it, getting a nice throaty vibration. It'll vibrate all the fascia in your body, and you hold it and you focus it, and you're actually drawing your attention to one part of your body as an antenna, and you can clean stuff. I don't care. You don't need these tools. You don't need any of them. Just, I don't like that. So, what am I showing you? I'm showing you attitude. And that's kind of key, because you got to believe in yourself. You got to own your body and believe that you can do it. And that type of energy is simple. All you have to do is touch up your hand, and you can just make people feel it by just going like this over their hands. That's the initial mesmer pass. Simple, easy. So that stuff works great. So when you get into a house that's haunted like that, you can do that, or you can replace the walls. Take out the drywall, replace it. Cost, but it's effective. You get the old homes with stucco and plaster and stuff like that, more difficult. And the old windows. The old windows are easy to replace as well. If they're if they're blown, they're antiques. You might want to save them because they're antiques. I don't know who would use them, but so another thing that will catch astral, besides Apache tears. You know what these are? Besides a blown glass ball? They're fishing buoys. They were used 100 years ago, and they were tied to natural fiber nets. 40 years ago, it was in hippie culture and older traditions, people would have ocean nets, and they would tack them to the ceiling, and they would have these things in them. They're imperfect. You get astral through it, and it just starts flaying it and capturing bits of it. Real easy, real simple, not anything you need to do. And if the net has been in salt water, as it dries, it'll generate salt crystals, so it loses energy. The natural materials will hold on to bits of astral, and that'll cut it up. What do? You take it outside, soak it in water, and hang it in the sun. You're done. Bring it in. It's got fresh salt water, new fresh crystals. They call them dream catchers and witch catchers. So if you're dealing with like Native American dream catchers, they're not made to work. They're trade goods. They're just for silly white people who want to usurp their tradition. And they won't do, half the time they're not made correctly, and they're definitely got no magic or essence or tradition that you know anything about to make them actually work for you. So why get them? You can make things just simple. Nowadays you can do macrame and tie stuff in it. Same thing. Put salt water in it. So I know it's a lot of material, so I'm like trying to get a brain dump out here. Poltergeist. People know what a poltergeist is? Fractured personalities from living people. People usually have traumas. When they start, if they're not having a multiple personality, they may fracture it into a psychic tulpa or entity. And the most active houses are like where natural energy flows. So if you know things about like Feng Shui and the 9 purple star school Feng Shui. You don't have to memorize all the charts. You don't have to memorize compass point readings. You don't have to figure all that out. Most of it is rule of thumb, common sense. You don't want to have your house face an open road that ends at a T at your house, because that's just driving energy here. Same thing if you're on a south end of a street of all a bunch of negative stuff. Well, they will put a berm of earth and maybe some trees or something to kind of just encourage it to go elsewhere. So to go into that, just pick up one of those books and it's real easy. But again, a simple piece of iron will stop it. The most common used thing of stopping poltergeists in the British Isles is sticking an iron bar along the ley line that they figured what it is, whether it's a ley line or an energy source, whether it's a stream of energy flow. Grounds it out, stuff goes away. It doesn't cure the person. They need the cognitive therapy. They need the help. Okay? I'll go in that with the energy building class and paying attention to stuff. Cognitive therapy and even with healing, getting critters out of people. you have to deal with the cognitive therapy. Where's the emotional leap that something needs to feed from? Most stuff you're going to find that actually tries to feed off of people, if it isn't human, are just attracted to bright light, and they don't know any better. Iron gets rid of it. Salt keeps them away. If they actually get in your house because you try to encourage magical energy, this one lady I know has this pesky pixie spray. And it's like a little hoodoo charm. Basically, you get a glass jar, put some nails in it, a little vinegar, some salt. You let the nails get rusty. You got salt, you pour it in a spritzer bottle, put a couple of drops of your choice of perfume or essential oils, put in a spritzer, and treat the pixies like mischievous cats. Stop knocking stuff down. Stop moving stuff. They get the hint, and if you're friendly with them, here's a saucer of milk. I'll leave it here every Saturday or every Monday or something. So you can deal with it if that's your tradition. Most of them just don't want to mess with me and stay clear of me. That's my thing. I don't like having things around me unless they can announce themselves. A lot of them just want to keep their mouth and see ya. So, you don't feed them. And who here experiences some of these dreams and weirdnesses? But I'm going to ask first, do you ward your room, your bedroom, with a spinning shield? Anybody uses spinning shields? Okay. Just like when you do a circle, you're doing a deal cells, you're drawing up energy, and you like to build that energy up for sleeping or whatever, and build it and use it for a shield. Well, if you do stuff like that, and you're not managing your energy practices like that, you may be bending an underworld, or an overworld if you're drawing down something. And it will affect your sleep. It will draw critters there because you're a spot and you're curious. And 9/10 of the critters that are going to be there, think of it as extraplanar raccoons. They're curious and mischievous. Occasionally you get fae from the natural things or reflections of people. 9/10 of them are mischievous. I had werewolf things, red eyes, investigating me when I was 7 years old. What's that? 30 years later, I find a good book. They're called Noggins. They are creatures that like to inhabit wooded bogs. Right across the road was trees, and it was swamp. So it's like, damn, if he isn't right, he named it, and it's exactly what it is. Most things are just going to be curious, so you don't need to scare them off. You might want to change your energies, or say hey, hi, and recognize them, and develop some sort of relationship. How many times do people get afraid of people because they don't know who they are? Well, same thing with fae. Some of them are critters. And, like raccoons, you go out there, get out of here and get out in the garbage. Same thing. If they're intelligent beings, they may respond to you. Or they're just going to give you like, what are you doing? Or we're not connecting or whatever. Either way, you don't need to shoo them off. And you may live exactly where these planes overlap. There's a lot of spiritual planes that, natural planes. They don't have to be demonic, they don't have to be angelic, but they're natural. And if you live by fault lines, you live around a small hill in the middle of the plain where the energy just goes like this, well, just every step out of there, you're going to find a different set of characters. Now, every time you get close to a fault line, there's different planes there. Now, the thing is, you normally see them like here, but it's how you apprehend them. 9 times out of 10, they're not the problem. And just changing your energy signature or changing some energy will help kind of discourage it. And so don't feed them, don't attract them. No, be there. That's rule number 2. Who takes martial arts? Number 1 rule about a fight, don't be there. No problem, stop, problem solved. The same thing is like knowing your limits, knowing what you can do, and if it's something too big, just, okay, no. And if it's energy signatures in your house, won't change them. Sometimes you're drawing energy signatures to yourself, so it's like, what are you doing lately? What kind of work you're doing? Well, now it's time to learn about that and what you're drawing to you. But that's your tradition, and I'm not going to speak to that. Now on to people. The most worrisome things you're going to deal with people are vampires. Half of them are neurotic. They're already victimized. They already probably been fed from, and they're going to use their negative victimology to get sympathy, and you start playing on it, and you start feeling for them, and you're emoting emotions that you don't normally have. You don't have control of those emotions, then you're feeding them. That's pure simple. As soon as you stop feeding them, they don't get nothing from you. They go bye-bye. So that's real simple. The ones who do it on purpose are the problem. And I want to give someone an idea. Someone pinged me about, like, it's like, they see all these threads to things, and it's thinking I have tentacles. I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of aspects of myself out here. If you had the ability to see that, that's what that is. But I am not being a vampire. Can I do it? Certainly. Do I? No. Simply because that astral fluff, if you pour it into your gas tank or into your oil, it's just like putting sand in it. You go to www.susudio.com. It has a vampire energy workers survey on it. Look at the health problems that they have. Innumerable autoimmune issues, heart disease problems, and psychiatric disorders. Now, this is not to say that people who are developing skills, trying to empower themselves and dealing with trauma has issues. Okay, this is okay. All right, we're working on it. But people who feed, they end up causing it. I see people who are healers and people with specific traditions that say everything has a cost because they're pulling energy from people to do a magic, to do a thing for a client. That's okay, that's their tradition. They may have ways of dealing with it. They may have deities that actually process that energy for them. I'm not going to say ah, yes, or boo about it, okay? What I'm talking about is the people who do it specifically. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to be sociopaths. And it's like, if you deal with sociopaths or narcissists in any given environment, if they have a group of people and they've had 5 minutes with them, you got nothing on them, okay? Because if you're an honest person, you don't know how to deal with it, and I don't, I can't deal with it, okay? So rule number 2 is don't be there. Why? Because if I try to help people, guess what? I am now the biggest target. I'm the one that can actually help them. I'm the one that's going to interrupt their feed and their jollies about manipulating people. Guess what? All you have to do is drop a buzzword and turn people against you, and you're done. You can come back after they used everybody up, and they're all drained dry, and they're all still quivering from whatever 100% drama they have. All they do is remember that they hate you. So get out of the way. If you have a traditional culture where you have these people that might trust an elder, might trust somebody that gives them some wisdom and insight to people, this might not be an issue. We don't have this in the past 100 years. We don't have tribal cultures. We don't have multi-generational families. That's a whole big shtick that I can run, and I'm not going to go in it. That's why we are forming a tribe instead of, it's a magical tradition. Because we see that we need social structures that support us. So, given that, they've done their nonsense, and you've gone away, you can come back and help them. All right? But you can't help people that don't ask for it. If you do that, it makes them miserable. So, they come after you, now it becomes personal. And this is one of my favorite parts, okay? How do you deal with most of it? If it's just they're causing drama, these are low-level vampires. They're a dime a dozen. Don't feed them. All you have to be is flat, and then just like, I'm getting nothing from you. And then they escalate their behavior, and that's good because now it shows everybody else what kind of person they are. Job done. Yeah. Now, you know.
We know people.
Yeah. So you know, there's some that they're sophisticated. They will use larvae, like the accumulation of all that astral fluff that turns into some sort of semi-sentient thing that lives in the corners of bars and malls and dark areas. And they can elicit emotion from somebody. They're not sentient. They're not a life form they just happen to be a magical construct. Just go away. Get out of here and burn it. Fill it. You know, send it out to the sunlight. Done. But you get vampires who do the same thing. They create this kind of cloud. I call it miasma. They'll leave it there. And I see there's fewer of them that are doing it now, but they do that, and it's kind of elicit emotions in those type of areas. And you feed them. I just get rid of them. You know, they come back to where'd it go? Fine. They spend more energy in trying to make another one. I don't mind vampires spending their energy because it makes them feel foolish. It ends up making them weak and will make them sick. I am good with that. Okay. The ones that put out tentacles, okay? You'll feel them bite, a little yang, a little electric charges, sometimes heat, prickles, feels like bugs are on you. And you get somebody that's like this. Yeah, thanks for letting me know who you are. Again, I send you, grab them out. Now, this is a healing methodology. Sometimes they're big, they dig in deep. Own your own energy, but put a barrier between it that is not your energy. Something that you can call up and say, this is a shield, right into that wound, whatever, right between it. And then next layer, soap. Some soapy construct, okay? Because that makes it kind of slick and easy. And then you're not carrying out a piece of yourself at the same time. You singe it off, fill it up with your energy. If you're healing somebody for the same thing, you've got to heal up the energy. And if someone's had it for a long time, they have an addiction to some emotional bit of drama, and they're constantly leaking types of energy, and something got a hold of it and makes use of it. And critters do the same thing, extraplanar critters, stuff like that. Same thing, heal it, hold on to their energy, put something in between them that neither part recognizes, a little bit of soap in it, and away it goes. And I love burning it, and what am I doing? I'm just burning calories. I'm not using my core energy, and they're not getting it. I don't want them to get your core energy, because that's where your spirit bodies and everything else works. So you do enough of that, they spend enough energy, and they realize this is not a fun activity, okay? So that works. This man taught me a new trick. It's like, everybody thinks energy is going out like this way. Why don't you turn it sideways? You're pulling it, and you may take it in, but it's going this way. It's not being fed. He calls it souring it. I love the idea, because they get nothing, and you can keep on feeding it to them until they're just sick of it. Because it's like, they have to go away. They have to let it go and deal with it. And it's just like, see ya. And sometimes they'll just act up because they want to feed from people. Now, it's also blocking people from being able to feed from normal people. I love that idea. It's great. I think he's a genius.
How do you do that?
Actually, these two are more dangerous than I am. So just to have an act. One thing I love to do is I like to, you know how to make an energy ball, okay? Can you turn it inside out? turn it inside out. It looks like energy, it tastes like energy. You stick it down a tentacle, and it's like a monkey trap. It's only big enough for me to go through, they grab the salt, and they kick it away. Same principle. They feel it, they taste it, and they keep pulling on it. And guess what? It just gets bigger. And they get nothing from it. They create this energy vacuum. And if you pull that energy from nature, it's connected to nature, and it becomes more connected to nature, and tighter and heavier. I had one vampire who really wanted a piece of me. I kid you not. It grew to about like yay big. He was dragging his tentacle around. I'm like, go you. He was determined. Okay? That's a story I'll get to. I don't know if we got time for it. No, we might have time. So, another thing I like to do is I take that inverse energy ball and pull from the four directions, you know, up, down, sideways, and give it a little sliver. You pull it in, and you make it a little tight. Okay. For those who want to see it. Okay? So you get a little bit of light, bright edges. It looks yummy, it looks like energy, and they want to pull it into them. Same principle. They pull on it, but it doesn't get bigger. It gets sharper. And they start pushing it through their system. Guarantee about it, if you make about like 10 of these, and a vampire sucks them into their body, they'll be sick for 2 to 3 weeks. Do I have a problem with that? No. They come after me and mine. I'm glad of it. Okay? So, I am not nice to people who attack me and mine. And if I'm in a group of people that I trust and have respect for me, guess what? I'll protect you too. That's the thing about being a difference between a shaman and a witch. Shaman is there to protect whatever family or tribe he thinks he belongs to. You know, a witch, you don't have to do anything. It's like, not for me. It's not my self-best interest. Now, the rest, there's a lot of room in between, but I'm just giving you an idea. Let me go to something else I want to get into before I tell you a story. But how about, who wants to hear a story about me dealing with somebody like that? Okay? All right. This is 35 years ago. I was a typist in a secretarial pool. I was one of 3 men in a pool of over 70 women. And fellows, it's not what it's cracked up to be. I was looked down upon for many reasons, and I'm not going to go into that. The thing is, it's upstate Albany, New York, one of the most politically charged environments. When you have secretaries playing high-scale political games over minutia, you learn about politics. And as being the only guy in there, I'll leave it alone. And all the drama. And I'm trying to say, what do you believe about abortion? It's like, no. Or anything else. It's like, because no matter what I say, I'll be wrong. So staying out of being a target. So given that understanding that environment, we hired this one woman who came from Chicago. She has a West African tradition that most people don't hear of. It's called Obeya. And what it is, it's a witch tradition. It does not involve Orisha or Loa. They may deal with the dead, critters, fae, anything they can control. They will use it. They don't care. Okay? So she was in there, and she was getting people to do work for her. She was using her charisma, her glamour, and she was feeding off it. She was causing tons of drama, especially with long-term friends. They were fighting each other, and she steps in, ends up being the conciliator. Oh, and now she's the nice guy, and it all works out great, and they're thinking well of her. Constantly emotionally charged subjects, and your constant feed of emotional churn, she's feeding them. And when she's not doing that, she had 4 or 5 of these little imps. Now, at the time, I didn't know whether to classify them as demonic, fae, or whether they were shells of children, or whatever, or any combination thereof. I don't know. She had them under control. They were doing the same type of thing. They were emoting a type of energy to elicit core energy. They would feed from it, and give the rest to her. So one day, and I'm sitting in this part of the office, I'm watching the shenanigans. I'm like, well, try to stay out of it. Next thing I know, she kind of looms over my desk with 2 co-enabled, codependent enablers. They're sycophants. And all she had to do was drop a buzzword on mincemeat. So I'm just like, play it flat. Leave it alone. She's asking me to do work for her and stuff like that. And says, well, I'd be glad to, except you got to have your boss talk to my bosses. So I had to. And if I'm free, this paperwork's here, not going away by itself, I'll help you out. He says, well, you know, you help these guys out. And I said, mostly it's finding folders. I imagine a witch and 18,000 paper folders in a mix and misfiled, and I have a knack of finding things. So I was kind of popular for that. So I said, you know, that's something I do for everybody. So, you know, you tell me about it, and I got to go search folders all the time. While I'm out there, I go and look for them at the same time. That's cool. But she says, so she started trying to do some mojo on her, and I'm just like, that game doesn't play well here. I don't appreciate you doing this to me, and I don't appreciate you doing it to anybody else. So here comes well, I'm just playing, Bill. She says, no, you're not. You're doing it for real, and I know the difference. And we'll see. I'm going to control this office, and you're not going to do anything about it. And then she started sending these things after me. So what I did is I put a bubble, a shield around her that fed off of her energy with a mirror facing her, liquid, and allow it to look like she's sending energy out, but it disperses in such a way that it just kind of circles around and grounds it out. Next thing you know, her charisma's gone. Her ability to influence people are gone. Why are we fighting? We're friends. Why are we doing her work? And stuff like that. So this goes on for a couple days. Okay. But she was just kind of like getting more and more irritable and trying to do stuff personally, and it's not really working. But the imps were still doing stuff. I'm like, stick the imps in a bubble and bind them inside the bubble. Now things come off the hook. She's talking to invisible things in an office of mundane people. You go. I told you to do that. Why are you here? And it's like, and she's like trying to punish them the whole bit. It's like, okay. And my boss comes over to me and says, Bill, you know, Debbie's a big woman, okay? Imposing, to say at least, and she's like worried about her, things getting worse. So, okay, I'll do that. Not to mention I'm already on the job. So they're fighting and they're causing a sort of havoc, and I'm like, I'm not looking at something right. Notice I'm questioning my abilities. I'm questioning what I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm not good. I'm saying, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? So everything I'm doing is completely out of the box. Okay, things that I have, besides some of the stuff that she was doing. This was a talisman I made back then. You can look at it. You know, you charge it up and you can feel how many booby traps I put into it. You don't need it anymore. So she was running into some of that too. So I'm looking and I see her aura. Because I'm not seeing it like bright light, because it's dark and it's oily. And anything that goes on it, right off. What do you do with oil and grease? Soap this, that. The next thing you know, it's like, magic bubbles and stuff. And those things were feeding off of her. She was spending all of her energy. She was going completely off the hook, getting angrier by the minute. They called security. She passed out before security got there. That was effective. And they had to call emergency services and picked her up, carried her away. This is not the end of the story. They let her go. Okay. 2 weeks later, she comes back without the imps, ready for battle. She goes over to the coffee urn. She undoes the sugar dispenser, dumps half of it out, so it's sugar like this. Pours coffee in it. She lights a cigarette, and off was 18,000 folders. Okay, they're calling, and they go over to Bill. Can you deal with this? I said, sure. He says, Debbie, you don't need to do this. Oh, yes, I do. No one's going to take charge. It's like, she was determined. She was about to try to own this thing. So she started dancing around the office, wood or shins, and no one knows what that is, and chanting and all this stuff. And the bubble I put up, back up, and let it drain, keep on draining. And she was spending all this energy, or chanting, or whatever, and she doesn't know how to connect with energy except what she pulls from people. Passes out before security gets there. The gurney comes in. The emergency service folks were like, yay big, and they go like, my boss says, I hate to ask you this, Bill, but do you mind helping her up? I certainly. And I help her up, and she comes to and says, Bill, I didn't know these were people. She says, they're not my people, and they're not yours. They're their own people. Just don't do this again. So, what the story I want to get out of it is, think out of the box. Use your imagination. Own your own energy. Know what sources of energy. I'm pulling from connections with nature. If I can remember nature, I might as well be standing right into it because I'm pulling energy that is accumulated to me. I'm not pulling for people. I don't have to pull it for people. And it's not helping. So use your imagination. The guy that had the giant hog-sized inverse energy bulb, he had it out for him. He was trying to get me fired and whatnot. He wasn't doing his job right. I had an owl dive on my car the day before the shenanigans started. Thank you, I got the warning. And I go in there and spend the day, and I take a Tupperware bowl that I had brought cookies in there, put it in the back seat with all the rest of my stuff, go pick my girlfriend up. She goes, there's a old black dead guy sitting in the back of the car. And I'm like, and I'm trying to shield myself, so I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm dealing with work. I just like shields up. Anyway, I go in there he is. I'm like, very kindly got out of the car and went over. I don't know where you're going, but this ain't it. We go to Waffle House. He's there again. I go to the Tupperware bowl. The guy stuck this. It's a West African tradition. They call them jungies. They find a shell, a spirit, undead person, and they bind them to them and use them. And he was stuck to a Tupperware bowl. People's like, you can't work magic with plastic. Oh yes, you can. The thing is finding the way it's extruded. If you try to go across plastic like this, will never work. But if you find the layers, it's just like wood, paper. You can just put the energy right in that way. And so you can slide it right down and put an energy lock in it. Put 3 of them in. Pull them out, the ball, clean the ball. I'm angry, okay? That's not the end of it for that evening. We go home, I send this guy off and said, okay, he's not fashionable, whatever. Girlfriend wakes up and says, there's 3 people in bed, and one of them's not invited. So, and it's like, he's arming like Lord Voldemort and Professor Quirrell. The guy made basically a skinwalker. So I had to do the whole thing. Change my shield, put the energy, change the signature, oil it up, grab it. Now what did I tell you about iron and glass? Okay? So I had this, and it was used for cooking. So not anymore. I stick it in there, and it's going to come out because iron's drawing it in, but it's also holding it in this kind of concave. And this is iron, but it's not going to work like an iron to drain. It's an old, worked piece of iron. What it does is ends up being like iron and glass, because it has little domains in it. Charge it up, dinner, stay. Put some more bindings on it. So it's staying. I finish up my sleep, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go to war. So I go there, and I bring up my old tools like that. I actually put this on my belt buckle and back here. Not necessary, mind you, because I'm working with my own air. The thing is, I went in to show my boss, who was from Brooklyn, who had family that knew about some of these West African traditions and how serious I was that this was not going to fly. Meanwhile, this guy's a root worker. He's leaving infected toothpicks all over the place. Pieces of paper that he's charged up. They let him go. I go in and clean him. And he's using transfections. He wrote on pieces of paper, terminate him, terminate him, terminate him, over and over again. He was trying to do some serious magic. Clean that, clean everything up, send it off. So he's been let go. He put a transfixion in an off-site tape box that was supposed to be for 7 years. Lucky me, I get it called back because I got to replay a tape. Fold the energy back. Fold it back, put mirrors on it, find a timeline. He's got an attachment to it. Any magic that people work, there's an attachment, there's a string to it. Guess what? All you have to do is put a mirror on it, send it back. Fold it up, bind it, send it off for another 7 years. I don't want to be him. So it's figuring out the thing. And are you feeling, I'm an ex-military guy, but I was born in a bad neighborhood. These folks are ex-military too. It's that I have to live. I am going to do it. I believe in myself. There was a master sergeant who says, come here, you want to survive? He was drunk and just go like this. He goes right in the stomach. And not a flinch, because I have thousands of sit-ups now. This is not all. Yeah, so the thing is, it's like, it's this. I'm ready for it. Now, the thing is sometimes it's too much. And the other rule is don't be there. If you have other planes coming in, there's like some people who deal with like shadow people, some of these other things. Now you're dealing with sentient beings, okay? Their whole shtick and their shamanic thing on those planes is finding people who are susceptible and feeding from them, using your dreams, using fear, using names. You got to own yourself. And sometimes you use anger. I'm not talking about being mad. Every emotion has a negative side to it. Every emotion has a positive side of it. Anger is not negative. Being mad is, because you're losing energy. Anger is about focus. If you're going to have joy, I own myself, versus being giddy. Worry, that's negative. Pensive. I'm going to react this way when this happens again. You are setting a plan, lock, a trap, ready to act. It's already there, in your brain, done. You're going to act on it. You're not wasting energy, just set it. Fear, respect. Having a respect for this thing, it's like, yes, I know you're dangerous, and I'm comfortable and respect myself, because I have worked myself. I've done the exercise. I know what I have to do. If you end up having to protect people, this is great. Michael brought up a thing, and I keep forgetting about it, and thank you for reminding me. People also generate a lot of noise. I had some young kids I was teaching. One was very talented, but she's also in a traumatized home. She was projecting stuff. She was just about this close from starting to go multiple personality and starting to do a poltergeist. But she was projecting stuff. But if you had a presence that changed how she functioned, stuff would never show up. There's things like, if you do magic, it's like, I have to watch out. I have, believe it or not, 296 aspects of myself floating around me at any given time. This is a particular tradition methodology I work. But they're all susceptible. So I have to protect every single one of them. But it's like, if you're putting thought forms around a house or whatever, and they are doing a job, you got to maintain them. And and the thing is, you got to maintain them in their function, because they're just like any of us. They will pick up the psychic noise from around your environment, and they'll start influencing and affecting them. Before I learned to manage and control this and make it me, I used to read people, and I would create a astral simulacrum of a person. And instead of having my energy touching an individual, which I find it could be violating, but some people don't know enough. They're going to a psychic that some of the energy that you might be invading their space, or you might get elicit a reaction from them that they don't want to remember. They don't want to deal with. They're not ready to deal with those traumas or triggers. I don't talk to it. I talk to simulacrum. So between they will not relate that information to it. That's fine. I learned how to make all these and follow time streams, reality streams around a particular city that has a lot of strange stuff on its own, different traditions, different things. Guess what? I trapped myself into that city. I wove myself into that city so tight. No matter what magic I did, for me, will never work. I could do stuff for other people and help them change their trajectory and their particular reality stream. Great. For me, nothing. I had to let it all go. It's a Buddhist thing about learning detachment, learning how to, your sorrow and things that you bring to yourself, it's all bad, or what you attach to yourself, what emotional things that you accrue to yourself. It's learning how to detach. I had to detach a whole life of mine. All the magic, all the methodologies, all the dream temples, all the pathways that work through different parts of dreamscapes. Go. When I was ready to rebuild it, I had a little bit better sense about it. So the thing is, everything you do, everything that you have, all those little thought forms I had hundreds of them. I had to feed them to myself and clean them. Each one of those things will get attached to where it's doing stuff. That's why they always teach, if you're going to build a thought form to do an activity, a fetch or what have you, give it a time limit. Make it come back. Get rid of it. Give it a very fine, seemly death. Don't give it too much intelligence. You don't want it to start developing a soul. Okay? That would be immoral, horrendous. The thing is being able to give it and absorb it and get rid of stuff. Make sense? Now the thing is, when you're dealing with supernatural stuff, if you're spending energy one way or the other, you're going to find it. You're going to be drawing beings from whether natural or supernatural planes. You've got to have this core energy managed. You can't spend it because that supernatural and underworld energy is not compatible. You have to use fetches. You have to use aspects of yourself. The only way to do that is you have to build them, and that's a magical practice. And you have to hold your own energy. And you have to have aspects to deal with that realm. And what other aspects you need to hold yourself together? Sacred space, you know, whether you're using a thing where you're creating a vacuum or you're pulling energy up, you're using multiple aspects of mind in your body. But at this point, you need to have them externalized to you. And you have to protect them as well. Because every single one of them will start being attacked. They're a vulnerability. If you are reflecting a vulnerability, things will attach to it. So when you're starting to deal with things that are of that magnitude, know your limits. Otherwise, get out of there. Make sense? Cool. I think I covered most of the rules of thumb. I mean, the things that people who deal with like the spell work and hoodoo and whatever, I've got that whole thing. And that's why this is here. Can you believe it? 5,000 spells. How much copy and pasting did this person do? Okay. There's a lot of spell work that really doesn't require magical energy. They require you to react in a matrix of a culture and context that each of those symbols, words, and behaviors and reactions and stuff, and it will work. And there are people who do negative spells from that, trying to fix and work people. And you can do the same thing. But you have to have the context. And if you don't have the context, and our culture and everything is so mixed, like Byron was saying, you have to use your intuition. How do you change a recipe? It's like, I don't know anybody who ever follows a pie crust recipe because it never works for them. They have to find, they experiment until they find the right recipe. Same thing here. And then you find people who find 10 spells that they manage to work because they change the recipe, and guess what? They make another book, and they copy and paste a whole bunch of them. So what am I trying to tell you? The same thing she said. Use your intuition. Use your ideas, your affinities and feelings to the symbols and the context of the world. And then you get somebody who has the magical oomph to make one of these spells, even if they aren't done correctly. You're going to have to use your own oomph, and your own set of self, your own context, and make sure the universe around you, the spirit, the spirit of place, spirit of where you're at, they're working with you. And that comes to a whole thing about the biggest thing that you have over any evil practitioner. If you live radically, honestly with yourself and the world and the spirits of place, you'll have something they will never have. It's integrity. That integrity will protect your soul. You can have your whole spirit stripped away. If you have that integrity and you have an honest relationship to the world around you, guess what? The universe will fill it out for you. It'll resurrect you. If I clench, kidding. I'm serious. Because it's all about your relationship. They don't have a relationship. They don't have an honest relationship with what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. That's why they keep losing energy. You keep yourself honest, clean, integrity. Now, I'm not saying you have to follow some hocus pocus spiritual 10 commandment codes, whatever. It's honesty. You'll figure out what honesty means to you and your environment and your relationship with the others. All those rules can go bye-bye. because you're all adults, so you don't need rules. You have to have an honest relationship. So, it's like me having an honest relationship with her. I picked her up and she started fighting for me. I'm like, okay, that's nice, but you know, I want to be able to say, hey, I can fight my own battles. And then again, I learned to have friends. If you have support, you'll need it. Unfortunately, you start doing this, you're going to be weird. Okay? It's a lonely road. The only way to get through it, if you're totally alone, is having integrity. I didn't meet these guys until about 8 years ago. Almost 10 now. Other than then, it's like everything's a disaster. Except I control it, the spirits aren't messing with me. They mess with me. Well, Nick will tell them. You know, tell the truth. They will mess with me because I needed to learn extra stuff and how to hide. Okay? You get to that level and you get things that constantly knock your doors and you're talking about overworld creatures with severe intent, call me. I got cards. He'll help you. I will help you. She will help you. There are techniques about building shields, how to deal, build them to such a point that there are things you can do to hide from yourself in the next lifetime. And nobody will find you. I finally figured out why no one could ever read me. I hid my timeline in the future. There's a way of following time. You have to follow your timeline. Same way you read people's ancestors. The ones that have them, you'll find those timelines attached to individuals that go this way. If you can read those, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's ways of hiding it. So if you get stuff that weird, we'll go through and make sure you get the development you need so that you can actually deal with it. And I hope you do. In my next class, I will give you all the tools to get yourself in all the trouble and all the adventure that you absolutely ever want to get into. And keep this intact. Okay? Any questions? Anything that vexes you, you want to have? Did I cover like a good gamut? Yes, ma'am.
What if the people that are pulling your energy are actually your loved ones and you really don't want to send them away? But you need to find some way for them to stop living off your energy with love, say. So you're not harming them or ruining your relationship, but...
What's the first rule? Stop feeding them. They don't know it. Stop feeding them. Own yourself. Oddly enough, this will start changing your behavior. And the thing is, everybody who takes something for granted will always get emotionally upset when it's taken away. And if it's not a conscious thing, okay? And the thing is, I got all my own stuff, okay? I'm 59 years old. I got to think about retirement. And I still have a couple kids in high school. So, and I'm taking care of their mother and her husband and their kids. There's a point where I'm going to go like, done. Okay? Do I feed into their emotional stuff? No. Do I feed my kids? Well, I taught them how to feed from nature first. I said, look, you got to develop shields. When we had creatures, where we set the house was designed to actually accumulate energy. We live on the end of this nexus, and the energy gets smooth around here. What was interesting to find out is there was a whole line of hollies in a part of my yard that happened to kind of encourage critters to come in my house and vex my kids. So I'm like, so I'm dealing with that, telling them to do that, and I put up thought forms to kind of protect the house and then take the occasional spirit fragment and send it off. You know, a couple times I've actually had a call on their divinity of that they've had access to. Hey, come here, this is one of yours. You know, sorry, it's not well connected, but you figure it out, okay? The thing is, it's like killing people, it's like not feeding them. And with love, because they got to figure it out for themselves. The thing is, expose them, like other kids, expose them to other treats and foods. Here's natural energy. Let's go out to this park. Ooh, feed our neck. You just take a shell. Just like pack it into it. It's like, that's not harmless energy. But get them like, ooh, this is cool. And next thing you know, get their minds off. Okay? It's explode. Hey kid, here's a green beans. You might like it. Okay, here's some green beans with butter. Okay, so yeah, the one thing about energy, and we're running over time, and I apologize. One thing about power, personal power, never lend it, never give it away, nothing. But as a parent, that's different. The thing is, the exception to it is you give it away with love, and you never expect it back. It's a gift, it's done, okay? But at some point, it's like, the gifts are done. So, it's choice, and anytime you take something away from somebody that's used to having it, they'll have time to start with that. Full-grown adults do it all the time. Any other questions? And I know you got like 10
I
minutes.
want to add one comment on what she said. And this is just being an older lady with a lot of experience, grown children, and 2 grandchildren that are getting ready to graduate from high school. Keeping giving them your energy and letting them feed off of you is not the most loving thing in the long run. It never teaches them how to deal with their own. They need to learn that. So actually, still be the loving person. I love you and I support you, but you can't do this anymore. And then try, if they're open to it, show them how to help them develop their own.
Thank you very much. I hope it's useful. If you have questions, please feel free to come to us. We have cards here with our site,
Flyers, etc.
information, and flyers, and the next class will deal with all that energy development stuff. Let me turn that off.
You're going the wrong way. Go like that. Do you want to go
This way.
straight? Yep.
Okay. Come on, baby.